There's someone else in the hotel with us.
Killed his family with an axe.
As long as I live, she'll never let me forget what happened.
She called it shiny.
What's up, guys, and welcome to the Bitter Popcorn. And today we're gonna talk about the movie. Let's go. First, I will tell you what is this movie actually about. A school teacher, Jack Torrance, decides to change his occupation to find a better income and prospects in writing. He's interviewing for a position as a winter watchman at a luxurious hotel Overlook, a place away from the hustle and bustle of the city among the beautiful landscape. From the manager, the man learns that the job does not require much effort and consists in monitoring the condition of the hotel for the period from October the 30th to May 15th. Torrance hears a gruesome story about previous watchmen who couldn't handle being alone and brutally murdered his family and committed suicide. His name was Dilbert Grady. Jack calmly accepts the story and convinces employers that 5 months of rest is just what he needs to work on a book.
Well, you can rest assured, Mr. Ullman, that's not gonna happen with me.
The Torrance arrive at the Overlook Hotel at the end of the season and take charge of the territory. The family itself has recently had a tense period, and a little son Denny suffers from a mental disorder to which parents try to attach too much importance. A month after the move, Jack becomes nervous, inappropriately aggressive. A hotel built on the former burial grounds of the Indians begins to act on him. Locked in a snowstorm dozens of kilometers from civilization, 3 family members are gradually plunging into a pool of fear and mistrust. What did Stephen King not like about this movie? Was film location. The author was disappointed by Stanley Kubrick's refusal to shoot the film at the Stanley Hotel in the American town of Easters Park, Colorado, where King himself was inspired to write The Shining in the mid-1970s. Instead, all the interiors and even some exteriors were created at the Elstree Studios in the United Kingdom. He as well didn't like the simplification of the paranormal component. Stephen King noted that in his opinion it was difficult for Kubrick to convey the spirit of the book, since he himself was an avid skeptic and did not believe in otherworldly forces. As a result, in film The Shining in 1980, he emphasized the human factor and psychology which pushed Jack Torrance to insanity and not the influence of the paranormal forces from the outside. This was the main complaint about the adaptation, which later took shape in King's famous dictum about Kubrick. He said like this: "He thinks too much and feels too little." About starring Jack Nicholson. Even during the writing process, Kubrick considered several famous personalities for the role of Jack Torrance, including Robert De Niro and Robin Williams. But his original favorite was Jack Nicholson, already an Oscar winner at the time for his work for the movie One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest. Stephen King insisted that the actor was certainly talented, but the main character of his book was completely normal, except for alcoholism, before arriving at the Overlook Hotel, and that he began to go crazy under the influence of external paranormal forces, while Nicholson already looks a little crazy in the interview scene. And on the way in the car, at the time of his son's questions, as if detached from reality. The book's Wendy Torrance was primitive blonde female, but didn't embody the horror genre stereotypes of the screaming female caught up in the odds. The actress in the interpretation of Kubrick presented as more down-to-earth, family type and touchable image. What does the ending of the movie The Shining mean? Perhaps one of the most common questions that arises and worries people who have watched, and even more than once, the film remains the meaning of the last scene. We see the camera zoom in on the photo in the Overlook Gold Room. The old black and white photo is gradually enlarged, and we see a man who, like 2 drops of water, looks like the main character of the movie, Jack Torrance. The caption under the photo says, that it was a ball in honor of July 4th, 1921. That is 60 years before the events of the movie. There are two most popular theories in this regard, or rather explanations. It would seem that it should not even be questioned because it was voiced by director Stanley Kubrick himself. Jack Torrance, played by Jack Nicholson, is the reincarnation of the man in 1921 photo. The meaning of this explanation is that Charles Grady, who murdered his family in 1970, is the reincarnation of Dilbert Grady, a waiter who worked at the Overlook all the way back in 1921. And Jack is the reincarnation of a hotel caretaker in the 1920s, whose name we don't know. Thus, the hotel, built on a former Indian cemetery, in some way returns people from that period, their variations, to its walls and leaves them here forever. It also fits well with the waiter's ghost, saying that both of them were always there and Nicholson's character was always their caretaker. On the other hand, if even years later a reincarnation of a person is born, what is the chance that he will look for a job as a caretaker in one of the thousands of hotels in the United States? Despite Kubrick's words, there is a second very popular explanation. After we see the frozen body of Jack Torrance, we're shown this photo. The bottom line is that the Overlook Hotel, as it were, absorbed the soul of Nicholson and placed it on the photo as a sign that he had become part of the hotel. The same thing happened to Grady after he committed family murder and suicide. The hotel absorbed him and made him a part of the same ghost. What does the name of the movie The Shining mean? We get the most complete explanation from one of the characters, the black cook Halloran, who speaks open with a little Danny Torrance when he discovers telepathic abilities in him. The Shining is the ability of the person to communicate with thoughts, read the thoughts of the other people, and which is important for the plot, see somehow events from the past and even the future. Halloran himself communicated with his grandmother without words, and now he has established a connection with the boy. In addition, the man says that some people do not even realize that they have the gift of The Shining. The main differences between the 1980 film The Shining and King's Book. Main character, as I mentioned above, literally Jack Torrance, is presented rather as a victim of the influence of otherworldly forces on him in combination with alcohol addiction. And before coming to the Overlook Hotel, if you do not take into account drunkenness and its consequences, he was an absolutely normal, balanced, and even peaceful family man. In the book, scenes with the bartender, more attention is paid to alcoholism as a social phenomenon and problem. King himself was just exposed to it while working on the book The Shining. Book Torrance also hears in his head the voice of his deceased father, with whom they had a tense relationship. Danny Torrance, the two characters in the book and the movie, are noticeably different. King's boy is more open to communication. He is aware of his extraordinary abilities and then shares his thoughts about them with others. At the age of 5, he is smart and clever beyond his years, while Danny from the movie is very closed in himself boy and shows signs of autism and does not have the same affection for his father as in the original. By the way, the boy in Stephen King's novel is only 5 years old. Wendy Torrance in the novel, this is more a submissive and respectful wife and mother, who maintained relative calm even at the moments of the high tension and did not go into hysterics. She was more attached to her husband in the part because of her own long-standing problems with her parents. Dick Halloran, in the book, the head chef of the Overlook Hotel, didn't keep it a secret from everyone except the boy Danny, and even shared his thoughts with the random people. In addition, he survives at the end of the novel, taking the Torrance mother and son with him, and continues to look after them in the epilogue. Stuart Ullman, the manager of the Overlook Hotel, in King's novel was less human than he appeared in the movie. He did not want to take Jack Torrance to this position, but admitted that he was pushed to this decision from above. About the room number 237. Interestingly, the novel refers to the room 217. While filming certain scenes at the Timberline Lodge, Oregon, Kubrick decided not to cause problems for the establishment and changed the room number to one that is simply not in the location. Despite this, even after more than 30 years, according to the assurance of the owners of Timberland Lodge, it is room number 217 that continues to be in high demand. The labyrinth of the Overlook Hotel. There is no such location in the book, but near the hotel, under the influence of the paranormal forces actively introduced into the text by King, their aggressive living bushes, which at some point, for example, attack the cook Dick Halloran and injures him. Stanley Kubrick understood that he would not be able to implement living plans at the proper technical level and abandoned this element of the book. He decided to replace it with a huge maze of bushes, which was really built for filming needs and was really big. What are the iconic movie scenes? A number of scenes from Kubrick's The Shining were introduced into the script or during filming and are not an adaptation of Stephen King's book. The scene where Wendy Torrance discovers the pages her husband was typing and the iconic phrase, "All work and no play makes Jack a dull boy." Interestingly, it was not invented for the film, and the history of the expression has several centuries in the English language. Another moment where Danny experiences multiple visions of Gardy's little dead girls in the hallway is also Kubrick's find. The iconic scene when Danny sees tons of blood that pours out of the elevator and fills the space of the hall. It's also a very beautiful moment. The phrase, "Here's Johnny," which along with the scene with the axe and the door itself also become an icon of the cinema.
Here's Johnny.
Thanks a lot for watching, guys. Like if you liked it, subscribe if you didn't subscribe yet. Don't forget to leave the comments, and see you in the next episode.